Order. First order of business is to have our oath of office. Congratulations, everybody, on valor and victory. And I think Preston is going to do the honor.
Yeah, it was a hard fought win.
Really tough, wasn't it?
So I'll just read you guys. You guys just repeat after me. And
You want to do it simultaneously?
I'm gonna do it each individual. Just go start with Ashley and with Gary.
All right.
And then after I'm done with each person, I'll give it to you. Just meet at the desk at the end. And sign it.
Are all of those the same?
Okay.
All the same except yours. You're just as mayor. There's just tax member. So that's
Okay.
all the difference. Stay with me, Ashley.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Make it official.
I like that.
I do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified,
I would solemnly swear that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
which that I have been elected,
to which I have,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof and preserve and protect and defend
discharge the duties thereof, and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go, man.
Thank you very much.
I remember being harder.
I solemnly swear that I am
solemnly swear
duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve,
and
protect,
preserve,
and
protect,
defend
and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Mayor. All right. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of the state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
serve, protect, and defend the Constitution
of this state and the United States. So help me God.
There you go. Thank you very much.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state and of the United States.
the Constitution of this state and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duty of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
and that I will,
and I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
to preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state and
the
of the United
Constitution of this
States.
state and the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go.
Preston, thanks for taking care of that. So sign down the left and then a notary on the right. Want that back now?
Yeah, that's fine, actually, yeah. Okay.
You got you. All right, thank y'all. Item 3, Mayor Pro Temp election. Nomination for that to take place.
Nominate Rocky Holiday.
All right, we have nomination for Rocky Holiday and a second.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? All right, anybody sign up for comments? I don't think we have anybody here.
Unless it's Charles.
Unless somebody submitted one by email or anything. No?
No, awesome.
All right, well, let's move on to item 5, approval of minutes. A copy of those from the October 11th are in your packets.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from October 11th.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we'll move on to item 6, reports and updates. First up, we've got Chief Fanning. Copy of his report also is in your packets in front of you.
Nothing really exciting on here. I hate to disappoint you.
You're down to one page, Chief.
We're down to one page, so that's a good thing.
Off season, kinda.
Obviously, not in this month, but we had some serious king tides last weekend, brought in a little extra help, and I just don't know what else to do to prevent people from plowing through these waters
Amazing.
like they do, but
We have a lot of that this time around.
Yeah.
When I have a big flood like that, can not predict, and limit access to the island. Say, hey, if you don't live there, you can't come over for 2 hours or 3 hours.
so we do, we sat out there, we closed the causeways for 2 hours, and there's still people on the island that are driving around like,
Is it sightseers or people that live on the island?
both renters, people, you know,
Maybe you can limit the sightseers. I don't know.
I mean, that's what we did. We shut it down. I mean, you saw me on the causeway. I mean, I was telling people, you know, unless, you know, you have like an extreme emergency to be, you know, extreme reason to be on the island, there's no reason for you to be driving through that. I had one fellow, we just decided to close the causeways, and I pulled up here and he was in a Chrysler 300, which is already a low riding vehicle. And you know, he says, well, my family's up on the north end. I said, you know, I wouldn't drive, you know, it's not even high tide yet. We got still another hour to go. Look how high it is. And he said, well, you're gonna, you stop me from going? I said, if you need to get up there, then just go as slow as you can. And he plowed through and he stalled out right up near the, across the town hall. So
Yeah, no, the lady stall out this way too, right?
we had 4 or 5 people over the 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, that had to get towed off the island.
Harvey said that it was the 7th highest tide on their record,
Saw that on the news, yeah.
and Charleston said it was the 10th highest on their record.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. Without
Really, I mean, we had that storm offshore, but it wasn't,
That wind was,
yeah.
Northeast wind was
But
pushing.
you know, it was strange because the wind turned out of the northwest and it still came up pretty good
Yeah.
the next day.
right. Kind of like we all knew it was coming, just didn't know how bad it was gonna be.
Yeah.
But it was bad.
Creek left the banks. Sure.
Any questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. All right, building report copy is in your packet. There looks like there's 4 items on there. Anything out of the ordinary, Ryan?
Just a demo of a house, 132 Atlantic Avenue, which has already been demoed, but that is a house that new construction went through before the ARB about 2 months ago, got approval, so we knew it was coming.
All right. Any questions for Ryan on the building report? All right, we've got the financial report next. You want to take us through that, Ryan, some of that before we talk about these payments?
Yeah, so the financial report is in front of you. Thing that sticks out the most is how high the local ATAX collection is through right now, which is $670,967. That's for the end of October. Same time last year, $495,260. So it's almost $200,000 more in ATAX collection than this time last year, which is significant. State ATAX still kind of lagging, but there's really no, you know, they're kind of behind in their payments, and there's really not that much transparency. And, you know, when we get it around a check around the end of October, beginning of November, we still haven't gotten it. I anticipate we'll get that sometime in the next.
So you think you might get a large?
It'll be our largest check. It always is the one we get this quarter. It's just
Do you know what
lagging.
our A-tax revenue was 19 this time?
I think it was like around 470.
Okay.
You said in 2019?
I could probably tell you.
One,
I can tell you in 2 seconds, actually. 2019 was a total of 513, actually.
that was the annual.
Yeah.
I was just comparing the time
So that's same time last year.
Right.
So
So 470 would have been probably right on it.
yes,
Okay.
and 47 in 2018
Overall.
overall.
Okay.
How can the debt service equal the yearly budget if we pay the same amount? Do we pay monthly or quarterly?
Because it's a one-time, well, it's two-time payment, but debt service is what it is. It's one time a year. So we've already made that payment. So
Mhm.
that's done for the year. Otherwise, really nothing that sticks out. You know, legal expenses, but we've amended the budget to account for that.
Ryan, do you have a sense of what our excess revenues will be at year end total?
It's gonna be about, I think we're gonna be right around, maybe a little bit below, probably like $50,000 if I had to guess, and that's because of the legal fees. You know, it would take.
Low budget, you mean?
Well, no,
Excess revenue.
I'll end up spending more than what we take in.
Oh, I misunderstood.
So it'll be
That's for
negative.
the general fund. If you're talking about all budget, all funds combined,
Yeah, all revenues.
yeah, we'll probably be, I can tell you right now, actually. Probably be about $250,000 after it's all said and done, which most of that'll be beach fund, clearly. So that'll build up the beach fund, which is what we use.
That's nice. Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Overall, 50.
Yeah.
Excess. Our surplus. Work. Glad to publicize that. No, surplus. I agree.
You heard that part, right, Charles?
Anything else in the report, Ryan, you want to highlight?
Nothing that, if anyone's any questions, I mean, shoot me an email, give me a call, but really nothing sticks out.
Speaking of legal fees, we've got 3 of them on the agenda that need approval. We've got one payment to Belzer and Belzer for $7,463.48. Another payment to Belzer and Belzer for $5,038.48. Third payment to Pagliarini Law Firm for $6,796.50. Yeah, this is what we owe. These are the hours we've racked up, correct?
That is correct.
Are these more than one? These are more than one issue, right? Legal issues.
No, these are all the same.
They're all the same?
This is all to deal with the condemnation, Belzer and Belzer.
All of this.
What's Pagliarini?
So that is the law firm that.
Specializes in,
Yeah, that brought on as an expert witness to go through Mr. Stanton's legal hours to testify whether it was, that was the basis of our argument, which is why it was reduced significantly, was because of them going through it and
Well, the judge agreed with our expert witness.
Yep.
Basically, he did a good job.
That paid for itself in a way.
I think Mr. Stanton has ever been in front of that judge before, maybe?
But it didn't do any good.
No.
Do we need separate motions? Can we do
No,
one?
one can do them all together.
I made the motion.
Motion is to
Hey,
all 3.
yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion on the motion to approve all 3 payments, 2 to Belzer and Belzer and 1 to Pagliarini Law Firm? All in favor, say aye. Item 7A, Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee recommendations. Last month, this was on the agenda to appoint someone. We still don't have anyone. That's the bad news. The good news is that their next meeting is not until March of 2022, I believe, March.
so we just, yeah, they're not meeting again until March, but this line item, this agenda item is not to appoint anyone to that.
Oh, this is recommendations.
This is the recommendations by the committee on the,
I read it this morning and I was like,
all right. So the expenses, those who made requests for ATAX funds,
Mhm.
you got the 65%
Yeah.
funds. Those are open to anyone who wants to make a a request for funds to use those funds on a project or something that would be considered a tourism-related expense. In addition to determining how the marketing funds are spent every year, the ATAX committee is tasked with hearing those requests and making recommendations to town council on how they should be spent. Traditionally, we've had one request every year that is made by the Beautification Foundation for the expenses related to maintenance with the parks. This year, they are not making that request. We've discussed it with them, and they believe it. They agree with us in that it makes more sense for the town to handle
Same.
maintenance, which all that does is instead of giving the money to a middleman who then they answer to, which has always been more of a problem for us because people complain or they've got questions, and it's like, well, the people that are paying don't answer to us, they answer this other group. Now we can streamline it to where they, you know, they have a problem, we can go directly to the landscaper and solve the problem.
And their charter will be more to do beautification, raise money, get donations to beautify, upgrade, fluff what we have already.
So the only,
Sort of their original mandate. Anyway.
Yep.
so the only other request came from the chamber. We have a brochure that we have on the website that we used to have printed versions of and would have them out at the old town hall in the brochure rack when that was the thing. Now we have a brochure rack downstairs. But it's a brochure that highlights all the historic properties on the island, gives people information about it. A lot of people would use them when they go for a tour. Drive up and down the island, gives you a map where they're located. It's found again on our town's website. We would just direct people to that. The only printed copy that existed got washed out in Hurricane Matthew because it was not available in a digital format. No one ever created a PDF or anything along those lines. So it's just needs to be redone. It's at the point now where the chapel is now a historic property. That's not on there. It's not recognized. So the chamber has requested $6,000 to completely redo that brochure. It'll be available then in the future as a PDF. And that also obviously covers printing costs to replicate that brochure. The ATAX committee recommended unanimously that be approved. And that being the only request, that leaves the balance, which traditionally the town has made a recommendation that the ATAX committee simply give the balance of those funds to the town to offset our tourism related expenses. So the total amount available was $164,988.76. The chamber's request for $6,000, if that was granted, that leaves $158,988.76, which they also recommended to give to the town to offset our tourism related expenses. So that was their recommendation.
And that compares to this year's amount of the excess that we got from them this year.
So this year it's not, so we have to do ours a little bit different than other towns because most towns work on a fiscal year the same as the state, where at the beginning of your fiscal year is July 1st and it ends June 30th. We're on a calendar year fiscal year. So half of our year, coincides with half their year. So we have to take two halves of their year to make one of ours. So these are technically for the 2020 ATAX collections.
Okay.
We are now 3/4 into what we would consider the 2021. We're waiting on that last check. That's the one we were discussing earlier, and that's the largest of the checks. So as of right now, we've collected 145,000 and so, but usually that last check is double what we've already collected. So once we get that, we'll know what that 65% number is for next year for them to make recommendations, or people will make requests for those. But we traditionally do that in September every year. This is through 2020. This is the 2020 funds.
And there's a new website for the town
So yeah,
to only Pawleys, I think it's called onlypawleys.com.
yeah, it looks good.
Brand new website. Probably should check it out. I mean, it's much improved. And the biggest benefit to it, not only is it look nicer and better and more comprehensive, they vowed and promised us that they would keep it up to date with events and just fresh content. And that was one of the big pushes that ATAX committee had.
They being the chamber.
They being the chamber. Yeah, and that was a big part of the bid process too. They interviewed three companies, I believe. That was a big part of making sure that what we got in return was maintenance of those, of that site.
Does the ATAX committee like get the ads that the chamber is going to run?
Oh, they don't. I mean, all they decide is where it's gonna go. So they'll say, you know, we want,
Because some of their ads have been so horrible. Like in AAA magazine, Southern Living, I mean, it's a picture of rocks and people, I mean, it just was, I sent a copy to Betsy
Mhm.
when we got our AAA magazine thing, and it's like, that's why, I mean, there's nobody looking at this, is my concern.
yeah, I mean, they've traditionally never, you know, and all the time that I've been involved, they've never gotten down into, you know, the content creation. Like, you know, they've seen it and they've all, if they have a problem with it, they have opportunity to voice their opinion. But when it comes to placing the ads and what the ad will look like, you know, they've never really, we could set it up that way. It just creates it more
I know.
of a task for that committee, which it's already, you know, for some of them, meeting 4 times a year is a lot.
Do they need to meet that often?
They could probably get away with meeting 2 or 3 times, but it's, you know, every year we say quarterly. We just pick a,
Mhm.
the 2 important meetings are September, which is when they discuss these requests, and then the meeting they just had last week, which is approving their budget, which will come in front of you guys soon enough to approve the marketing spending.
It seems like the chamber would have a hand in reviewing some of those ads before
You would think.
they go to print. And I can understand the committee not having the time or the inclination or energy to do it. But the chamber kind of semi-directs that
They do.
as it is. So it seems like to me, that's a charge we can take back to them.
Why couldn't we ask to see them? Somebody, it'd be easy enough.
We can.
We just want us to take a peek
It's
at
just a
it.
matter of
Didn't we
whether
have
you want
somebody
to or
from the
not.
chamber come one time?
Yeah.
And
we did.
we asked them about, because I brought the magazine then,
Yeah.
and then it was in again the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I could, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, we want to see, because I mean, it's not like they're creating it right before, I mean, they have it stocked and ready to go. It's just a matter of running it. So yeah, I'll request it so everyone can review it. If anyone has any problems with it. Yeah, plenty of time
They
to,
just emailed it to us,
that's what I would do. I mean, email it and then just.
and if you had an issue, speak up, and if you didn't, okay, pretty
Let it rip.
pictures.
Okay. We'll need a vote to.
Just a vote to approve it.
Right.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve.
The recommendations.
Yep.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed. Okay, 7B, first reading of ordinance 2021-10, an ordinance amending the 2021 annual budget. And by the way, before we do that, we are lacking a member. Sorry, we're lacking a member on the ATAX committee. They are meeting in March. We'd like to get somebody in place in January. So we have
Who went off?
Robert Hendricks.
yeah, Hendricks. So
Didn't want to do it anymore?
I just felt like he felt, you know, like he doesn't, a lot of the people in that room are either in lodging or, you know, hospitality, and I don't know that he felt he had much to contribute. It's what his email said, that it was just really, he didn't have much to, he was resigning because of that, so.
and we've got all of the requirements covered as far as the
Yeah, so-
accommodation, hospitality and all of that. So whoever it is, obviously we want to be qualified, but they don't have to meet a certain,
Correct, we've already got all those boxes checked, so it could be anybody.
be thinking about it, please. It's not easy sometimes. to fill these
Well, you're looking for
committees.
somebody that's kind of in the biz. How about?
Yeah.
Eddie Wilder?
That's not a bad idea.
Who?
Eddie
Realtor.
Wilder,
He's in real estate. Not locally, but
reach out to him.
I can't.
Go good with that? Okay, that's a good one. Any other ones you guys think of, just serve them up, send them to Ryan. And we'll float them over to that committee. Okay, first reading of ordinance 2021, ordinance amending the 2021 annual budget.
So this is an additional amendment. We passed another one last month at second reading. This is one more. This is strictly just housekeeping. And this is because of the financial audit at the end of the year for the Sandy Cooper, the loan, the intergovernmental loan we took with Sandy Cooper to pay off the balance owed on the underground wire project. The deal was that they would just keep our franchise fund payments every year and just put that towards the balance out. So it never actually physically came into our hands. The way we budgeted it last year was we just showed franchise funds never coming in. So typically it'd be about 63,000. We just didn't show the 46,000 that should be coming in, but it's going, Santa Cooper's using it to pay that loan. But the financial reporting at the end of the year, which I didn't realize until, we were doing it in March, April, the way they show it is we have to show it as money actually coming in and then us paying. It's not the way I showed it in the budget. So when we did that, obviously this budget for 2021 had already been done. I said, oh, well, next year I better make sure I reflect it that way, which I have, and you'll see that in the 2022. But it's now reminding me that it's going to cause some problems when we go to do the reporting in 5 or 6 months. For this year, it's going to show as a $46,000 expenditure that we don't have budgeted. So that's going to make it look like we spent money that wasn't budgeted. All this does is it shows increasing revenue of 43,000 and an expenditure of 43,000. It's a zero sum. There's 43 coming in, 43 going out.
Got it.
Or 46, I'm sorry.
Is that something you caught on your own, or is that something that the audit people found?
No, I mean, I caught it, but I mean, based on how she reported it, and she's like, oh, we can report it any way you want. I'm like, no, let's keep it that way because it's much easier to read. And I made a mental note that next year I better budget this way.
Well, that makes sense.
So, but now I'm just auditing it, I'm just amending it so it shows it differently in our budget so that when we do the financial reporting, it's consistent.
Got it.
That's it.
Got it. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget change.
Second.
A motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Right, next up, we have first reading of ordinance 2021-11 and ordinance adopting the 2022 annual operating budget. As you guys know, we have a meeting tomorrow. This first reading is basically approval of the budget so that we can move forward in discussions tomorrow with the budget as is, and then we'll obviously have to vote on and approve the final budget in the second reading, which will be at the December meeting.
Correct.
Anything you want to point out in the budget? Talk about before we meet tomorrow, before we vote on the first reading? Any questions that you guys have based on the budgets in your packet? I know you probably hadn't had a whole lot of time to look at it just yet, but we'll pound on that tomorrow, some more tomorrow.
So yeah, I wasn't planning on spending too much time on it just because we're dedicating an entire meeting to it tomorrow. But it's, same format as I use every year. Our total revenue is 1,711,400. And that's up 16.2% over the budget amount last year. And that's attributed mostly to the increase in local accommodations tax. And then we were getting the ARPA funds COVID. That'll end up being $50-some thousand, which we're gonna have to determine how we want to spend it, but we have plenty of time to figure that out. So I'm just gonna put that away off the side, and when the time comes, we'll use it appropriately.
Okay. What percentage did you say that revenue was up from?
16.2. The majority of that being the local aid tax being higher.
I'm confused. What page does it show that revenue? This one on
So if you look at the
different.
so the total revenue is there.
That one.
This is all revenue and this is all expenditure.
So no revenue wasn't that.
Right, because you've got all these fund transfers which show up as revenue in different funds, but at the end of the day, it's not money actually being earned. You're
So the only
duplicating.
fund is that one right there. So if I take,
So you would, if you got rid of these
Take that out,
last,
that's gonna
you
be
got rid of these last 3 lines, which are all fund transfers. It's just money going from one fund to another. So it'll show as revenue in a fund, but it's coming from another fund. And you're showing it as revenue twice. You don't want to do that. So what I do is if you look at the front, that's total revenue. Yeah. You get rid of those 3 line items that are just transfers because you don't want to show that as.
$50,000.
Right, and then same with that first page breaks it down to what it truly is.
Okay.
It's like you'll show local aid tax, the money will come in, 20% of it, that debt payment has to, so it comes in as aid tax revenue. Then you're gonna make a transfer from the local aid tax to the debt service account. It's gonna show up again as revenue in the debt service account, but it's not really revenue being earned twice. It's just in those funds, it's revenue coming from wherever it comes from. So what I do is I cut those out. So actual money coming in the door, it's 1,711,000. Although on that operating statement, which I put that together, hopefully trying to make the most sense I possibly can. That shows all the funds and where the money comes in and where it goes out, what's being paid out of each fund. It's a little confusing, But like I said, tomorrow we can talk about all you want. I'll do my best to clarify everything.
Yeah, because honestly, there's so many transfers and money comes here and it goes there. I had it at one point, but if I go 6 months without
I don't blame you.
looking at it again, I can't remember.
Listen, even I talked to Preston about it. Preston's like, when am I gonna, listen, I did this it probably took 3 years of me doing this full time to fully have it to where I don't have to think about it. Like, I just know where everything goes, but you have to keep reminding yourself because there are rules where this money comes in and then that money has to be spent a certain way. It's got to go to this other fund, which then that fund is responsible for paying. It's not like a business P&L that you would look at and say, here's your money going in, here's your money going out. And is it in the end of the game or behind it?
Worthwhile to try to document it somehow.
So I would say
In a clear diagram drawing kind of way.
That's-
bad. I
the
learned.
flow chart would be the best way to say, okay, here are all our revenue, these is where it comes in, and this is where it goes to. And then out of those, this is what those, I will do my best to prepare something for tomorrow that breaks it down as much in layman terms as I possibly can.
Okay, well, I'll try, the meeting obviously got an hour and a half, and I don't want to take any more
Yeah.
than that. If we can spend 10 minutes.
Yeah,
We'll cap it,
absolutely.
we'll cap it at that, but at least, I mean, the best, would be a really good idea
Right.
for me, the town council, and the next council after us to have something that explains it succinctly in a page or two. I mean,
I can do that.
I think you can.
So then expenditures up 8.8 over 2021 budget amount, and that is attributed to, I put a little extra in legal fees, cost of a new patrol vehicle, and then engineered studies on both the creek dredging and the north end jetty. So that's explains why that is higher than it is. Those are all broken out in the budget, notes, and I've emailed you guys something about 40 minutes before the meeting, which is solely for the discussion tomorrow. And that, and try to do my best to show, hey, this is the budget approved in 2021. This is the budget approved in 2022. If we don't have any of these extra things in, which are the things I just mentioned. Then I give another column that shows what those extra things are and breaks it down below, explaining them specifically what they are. And then those two columns added together is the budget that you have before you. So you can take those things out. You don't have to have them in. These are just things that, based on, I know what's coming and requests that have been made, this is what the budget is. This is just first reading. All those things are still entirely up to you on what is in there. And like I said, I emailed everyone just a one-page memo and a spreadsheet that I put together to accompany that, to try and explain that. I think it makes a lot of sense. So if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to, you don't have to wait until tomorrow at 5 o'clock to ask questions. If you see something, want to shoot me an email?
I would encourage that.
Yeah.
I would encourage that too. Not going to put you on the spot because you may not know the answer to this, but if we have a surplus of 250K this year, do you have a sense based on the budget that's semi-prepared and that we're voting on tonight?
Right. So if you look at the first page of this, when Gary was looking at the net operating statement for all the funds in 2022, it shows at the very bottom, based on what the fund balance will be at the beginning of the year and what, based on my budget that I threw together, what I believe the surplus will be. So for the general fund, it's going to be over by 37,200. But again, that includes $36,000 extra for legal fees. I don't know if we're going to be 36,000. It could be far more than that. I don't know. That's a total shot in the dark. But that also includes police vehicle and includes $10,000, which again, I lay all this stuff out in the document I sent you. I asked for $10,000 for help with grant writing, because with all this infrastructure bill, everything that's out there, we need to go after it as aggressively as we can. I just don't have the time to do it all on my own. So this would help. If it's $10,000 spent, it ends up producing tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money. It's money well spent. Just need help with the writing.
Is that Waccamaw Regional? Who do
So if
you?
you walk in my regional, they're not the only ones. There are plenty of outfits that,
Tom Rice's office has one.
right. So there are plenty of people who do that. But this gives us a little bit of flexibility budget wise to make sure we, and all these things would be approved by council. It's not like, oh, 10,000, go spend on whatever you want. Those opportunities be brought to council, but at least it puts it in the budget. So we're saying, hey, this is a priority and we're going to put some money towards it. So that's 37,200. If you stripped out all those extras that I had in there, then we're end up paying ahead by,
I got you there.
Okay.
I mentioned before, got it.
beach fund. I budgeted based on local aid tax collection being at least what we had this year and a little bit more. So that would give us a surplus of 258,200, which just pads that's after paying debt service and all that good stuff. And that's $258,000 that goes towards the beach fund. So the beach fund will start the year at 505,209. And based on that surplus, at the end of the year, it'll be $763,000, 409, which it's inching closer back to $1 million. And, we just finished the beach renourishment, not even 2 years ago or 2 years ago. And we depleted most of everything that was in there. So we're obviously heading in the right direction.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, any more questions or thoughts on that? Obviously tomorrow, we're gonna spend more time clarification on before tomorrow, and do hit Ryan up. If you see anything you have questions on or want to discuss, or at least get clarification on before 5 o'clock tomorrow here, correct? If there's no more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to first reading of the budget.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve, first reading of ordinance 2021-11, adopting the 2022 annual operating budget. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we spoke about the work session tomorrow, 5 o'clock here. Please take the time to look at the email that Ryan sent out earlier today. Formulate any questions, send them his way. Any other thoughts about tomorrow? Everybody going to be able to make it? Yes?
That's the plan.
Okay,
And I've worked out like 10-year projections based on what we're doing currently if we don't change anything. What those balances will look like.
that's good.
So it gives you an idea, at least for planning purposes.
That's a good idea.
Do you think that the A-tax revenue will continue along this?
I mean, I don't think anyone could expect it. That jump towards,
I know.
totally, it's more than, not even close to anything we've ever had before. So clearly, it's a combination, I'm sure, of people charging more for their rentals, more people renting, more people going on vacation. I mean, it's just,
Escaping COVID.
yeah, I mean, it's,
COVID related.
so it's hard to say, hey, is it going to continue to stay like this? But it's positive. It's good. If you're gonna have a problem, then that's a good problem to have to deal with, right?
I think obviously the cat's out of the bag on Pawleys Island, so.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, if there's no other comments or questions about that item, we're like to move into executive session pursuant to Freedom of Information Act to pursue legal advice or on other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege. But before we can do that, we will need a motion and a vote to do so.
Make a motion to step down into executive session.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion to move in executive session?
Keep that big crabs out of the bag, falls out.
All in favor, say aye. All in favor, say aye. We'll need a vote to go. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed. All righty, let's do it.